Hey guys, here's why the Star Wars sequel trilogy will age awfully. So, most of Star Wars is timeless. The 6 movies that George Lucas made, I'd say they're all timeless, except for maybe one exception, which we can get into another video. The sequels are, right now, they look graphically great, and they have a story that's no one really respects. I mean, some people respect the story, but they like it because of how good it looks and how good um, the directors did on that. So let's talk about how the Star Wars sequel trilogy will age awfully, and I mean it will age pretty bad. So let me hear me out here a little bit. All right, if you're sequel fans, hear me out. So the original trilogy, the A New Hope, came out in 1977, right? And that movie still holds up today. So does Empire, and so does Return of the Jedi. How? How does the movie? Okay, think of like a movie from 1970s in the 70s. No, like there are of course movies from the 70s that people still watch, but a majority people are like, well, those old movies, nobody cares anymore, right? Because it's aged on. We're in a whole new era. But Star Wars, for some reason, all the Star Wars movies seem to be timeless. How come? It's because what something great Star Wars does is, even though it should be all about, I mean, if it's space, it should be all about the effects and stuff and how it visually looks. They make the visual stuff actually the most unfamiliar part. Normally, you're like, okay, normally the visuals are familiar in most movies, like action movies and any time. But sci-fi, you're like, okay, here are all the cool visuals. That's familiar to me. Now the story is unfamiliar to me. However, the original trilogy Star Wars makes the Star Wars seem familiar. Make the characters just seem like everyday characters, so you can relate to those characters pretty easily. Um, and then the effects are what's unfamiliar. They have different types of effects, but the thing is you're learning about the effects as you go, and you understand the story more than you do the effects, and that's what's great about the original trilogy and the prequels. Um, that they age well because it's a story with effects. Maybe the effects didn't age well, but the story is perfect, so it ages well. Now the thing with the sequels is the effects are really nice. They're super sweet. It's 2022, and the Force Awakens effects are still holding up today, which is great. However, in 20 years, if people are looking, people are still gonna be watching New Hopes. People are still watching Empire. People are still watching Return Jedi. People are still watching the prequels. However, the sequel trilogy will not be holding up because then technology will be more advanced, and we'll notice that the sequel trilogy technology was in advance, and then the people will quickly realize that also the story is not advanced at all, like at all. And also the sequel trilogy is actually failing, like their merchandise. People at Lucasfilm have said that their merchandise is not selling. They don't understand why no sequel stuff will sell. The only stuff that sells is original trilogy in Mando. So clearly there's an issue with the sequel trilogy. The merch isn't selling, and soon I believe it will age horribly. I believe that this whole sequel trilogy will be looked at worse as the years go on. While the prequel trilogy aged better, people were like, these effects are crazy. But like I said, the effects are what you're supposed to be unfamiliar with. The story is what you're familiar with. And the sequels, in the sequels, the effects were familiar. We're like, oh yeah, those are just some effects. I know the types of effects like that. And the story was unfamiliar. You don't want that. You want people to be able to relate to the story and go and learn the visual effects as they go on, not the other way around. And that's why the sequel trilogy will age horribly.